This is a fascinating question from Michael Kuzmich, big fan of Inside Line. Hey fellas, has SANZAAR ever considered doing their own version of the British and Irish Lions tour? Well, if so, then we can create the SANZAAR Tigers, I'm not sold on the name personally, with players selected from Oz, NZ, South Africa and Argentina. The tour would run during... Michael's saying the tour would run during the spring season or after Christmas, New Year. I'm not so sure about the timing. But just in terms of doing like a Southern Hemisphere style British and Irish Lions team, has it ever been discussed, Goog?
It's been discussed probably to the same extent that World Club Challenge has been discussed, and then I think there's a lot of obviously a lot of governance structures and a lot of existing frameworks that need to be agreed to. But I think it's just been discussed. I don't think it's really been modelled to the level that it would need to be able to get it off the ground conceptually, from a concept to a structure to a this is how it's going to work. It'd be great though, wouldn't it?
Oh,
I mean,
no.
that'd be
Can I
be a no-brainer.
Say, and I know I'm on a rugby show, but today's State of Origin in rugby league, every single rugby league fan is invested in tonight's game. When Australia play...
Well, that's because they're a fan.
Yeah, that's right. But when Australia play New Zealand, South African fans, there might be some interest, but they're not invested. And that's what makes State of Origin so special. You've got the best players in the world coming together to have the game of their life in a night. If you had the British and Irish Lions
rugby league fans in
SANZAAR,
Western Australia and Victoria, they don't really...
Well, they'll pick a side,
Right.
I can assure you.
You reckon?
Queensland.
But yeah. But in rugby doesn't have that. But this could be it.
This could be it.
Like you think about that, like every single rugby fan on the planet have a vested interest in a team that is playing on that night, and it could blow the roof off. It could be the biggest thing rugby's ever done, but they've got to get it through the conceptual phase and all the argument, the snouts in the trough that have got to back away and to let it happen.
Well, knowing our mates over the ditch, like they'd never say yes to it. But like, would they tour? Would they play in France? And like, would be on a 12-year cycle or?
They're all the questions.
Well, the British Irish Lions concept is an amazing concept. It's an intoxicating example of how the world of rugby can come together for a short amount of time and put aside international rivalry. But the most compelling argument for the British and Irish Lions' existence is the commerciality of it.
Yeah.
Australian rugby is going to survive on the back of the British and Irish Lions tour down south. Now, if the Southern Hemisphere can put a model together that, of course, represents the best of the best, and we know that we'll win probably more times than we'll lose when we put that team together, that is going to be an amazing group of people and athletes. It's the commercial discussion, because we know that commerciality will make you move things, and timings of competition and World Club Challenge, how much you're going to pay us, and World Cup, you guys are going to have less tests this year because it's a World Cup year, no problem, it's worth this much money. That's the answer.
It'd take a huge pile of money.
Yeah, well, I think you get it though.
Mate, we know the pile kind of, because British Irish Lions lives the pile. So we've actually got the model, we've got the numbers, we just need people to go, here's my pen.
I reckon if you put it on during the spring tour, as in instead of all those individual nations going, you go north.
You find a window.
Yeah.
I promise you.
That point, and you don't just play the four home nations, you include France in it as well.
What about this? One shot, one kill, the Lions and the Tigers. I don't want to call it Tigers.
It's the Tigers.
The Lions versus the Anzac Saffers. A week after the World Cup final every 4 years. They just pay, if money makes the world go round, pay every single person.
To be fair, the semi-finals of a World Cup are usually the Southern Hemisphere teams anyway.
But at least there's like, it finishes, you might find a...
Oh, jeez. Does this go to Northern Hemisphere?
It does.
No.
Mate, it wasn't me.
I think it has to be. It can't just be a wedge inconvenience solution. It needs to be, which is why the World Club Challenge, right? It needs to have validity than just a 1v2 shootout, and then no one's really going to pay enough money to make that worthwhile and have longevity. British Irish Lions has survived because of the emotion and the history and the it's been tied into all sorts of different themes, and now it's got this thing in the world of professionalism, commerciality and sustainability. So important to marry that.
And am I going to be the one to point out that how many players will we get in the team? Some years are smaller than others.
Wales got 2 in the Lions squad.
Yeah, we'll always get a couple.
Might be us in the short term, but as time goes
Well,
on.
that'd be huge too, right? How do you set up selection criteria? How do you set up the panel? Who's got the final say?
I just love the thought of it.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine like anyone not being so invested in that. And when you've got the punters invested, they're the ones that bring the dollars to the table. Then all of a sudden the sponsors come on board. The excitement for the game. I just think it could be rugby union's answer to compete with other things that they're competing with.
I actually think this is a better idea than the World Club.
I do too.
It'd be the longest undefeated group of athletes team.
Do you think so?
Ever.
The SANZAAR team.
You don't think
There
they
you
ever
go.
lose?
I don't think they'd ever lose.
But
Not-
that's
well,
what
maybe
we-
not go but I don't reckon they'd lose a series until Armageddon.
Yeah, but that's the intrigue about it, right?
'Cause that's hard to beat.
Well, how do we know? Let's see it, and then you see it, then all of
No,
a
we
sudden
know.
you've got this Southern Hemisphere
You know
team
what?
that's just dominating.
Let's
and all
start
of a
this
sudden-
argument, because when these arguments get airtime,
Yeah, the Northern Hemisphere then go, we can't have these things change.
Lights a fire.
Yeah.
Lights a fire.
It just, mate, it'd be amazing.
Right.
And that was how State of Origin started. New South Wales, Queensland got sick of New South Wales kicking their ass.
no, but it's not to play against the British and Irish Lions. Let's get this right. It's not,
Because we've got to
It's to
incorporate
play
Italy. You've got to
against
No,
incorporate.
you're going on tours and
Yeah.
you're handing it to the others. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe the individual unions up there aren't strong enough.
What's intriguing
to play
from-
the team. There
from
you
a
go. I
player's-
started it, the debate.
Yeah.
From a player's perspective,
I'm
like
leaving house.
you listen to James Horwell talk about how his eyes were opened about how much playing for the Lions meant to the guys he was playing with. Like, it was like playing for your country, being selected for the Lions and being a test line. And like being a test line was top of the tree. So it'd be really interesting from a player's perspective about being able to represent.
Which also ties into possibly player retention, right? Because that could be a selection policy thing where you have to be playing for the country, in the country, at the time. You can't pick,
Geez, we've solved a lot of problems.
That could be a thing,
I think
right?
we've
As a
created a
player,
few too.
I'm going to stick around because I want to play for
He's all
the...
positive. The old prophet of doom over here. He's become like, he's lit up.
Oh, I'm excited.
I reckon it's your infectious attitude. You are the
mate.
greatest supporter of any idea. Great idea.
Come on,
do
let's
it.
go. Let's make it happen.
I want
Rory,
very
pull your
quickly-
finger out.
As long
Speak
as
to the
you
right
get paid.
people. What's that? Yeah, as long as there's money on the table.